Video games are a very creative medium. Some would say they're an escape. There have been many great concepts throughout the years when it comes to games, but not all concepts are they don't all make a good final product. Today, that is our focus. Welcome to Chaos Gaming. What is up, everybody? We are going to be talking about amazing concepts, amazing ideas for video games. You probably have one of your own. Let me know in the comments section. Well, that turned out horribly wrong. Just something went awry. You guys let me know in the comments which of these games on this list disappointed you the most. Drop a like. Make sure to turn on those notifications on your phone, on the YouTube side, everywhere so you don't miss a video. The channel is starting to grow, and it's because of you guys. This month's giveaway is for your choice of a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. All you have to do to enter is drop a like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave a comment with your Twitter handle so we can get hold of you telling me which one you want. The winner is picked at the end of the month. Good luck. Starting off this journey today is Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, following the conclusion of the original Mass Effect trilogy, it's been a while since we've heard from Mass Effect, Andromeda seemed like a good idea. After all, the Mass Effect universe is massive, so it makes sense that BioWare would want to explore other areas and characters within it, right? Well, wrong. The idea fell apart when it was handed to an incredibly inexperienced team with no leadership for the most part of the development cycle. Mass Effect Andromeda launched in early 2017. It was ugly. Fans didn't like it. They felt like it was a slap in the face to the series, and it did not live up to the franchise name at all. Andromeda ended up being a sales disappointment and resulted in EA putting the Mass Effect series on indefinite hold. That's not a good sign. So if we never, ever get another Mass Effect game again, you guys know who to point the finger at. You know who to blame. Speaking of who to blame, Fallout 76. I was one of those people who thought this game could have actually been something awesome. An MMO set in the Fallout universe seemed like a match made in heaven, and after Bethesda revealed the scope of the game, I drank the Kool-Aid. Once the game launched, though, all that quickly extinguished. Fallout 76 was a mess on launch day. In a lot of ways, it still is. Buggy, crashy, repetitive, shallow, full of microtransactions, you name it. It was a complete disaster, and it crapped all over what it could have been, coulda, woulda, shoulda been an amazing experience for fans of the series. Bethesda eventually got around to putting out some decent patches and getting the game to an acceptable state, which is where it should have been on launch day, but we don't forget. You don't forget the vanilla version of Fallout 76 because it's a perfect example of a game with a fantastic concept that fell flat on its face. And let's keep this train going. The Order 1886. This is one of the best looking games on the entire PS4, across the board. There's no doubt about it. It holds up today, but that's it. That's the only thing it had going for it. This third-person shooter had an awesome premise, amazing visuals, but the story and the gameplay, they were terrible. It was set in an alternate history where the Knights of the Round Table survived to the 1800s, and they now protected London from monsters and vampires. That is awesome, right? Unfortunately, the gameplay was extremely shallow. The campaign was short, and there was no replay value whatsoever. The Order 1886 had such a promising universe, and it was absolute eye candy, but if you're not going to give people anything to do with the game you give them, you can't be shocked when they put it down and they give you a really bad Metacritic score. At number 7, WARCRAFT 3 Reforged. This should have been good. A full remaster of the 2002 RTS that broke the WARCRAFT IP into the mainstream? Come on. Blizzard revealed WARCRAFT 3 Reforged at BlizzCon in 2018. The hype train was rolling. They promised new graphics, character models, tons of content, and a completely reanimated cutscenes. But you probably know how this story ends. It launched in January of 2020 to overwhelmingly negative reception for the whole laundry list of reasons. Aside from the bugginess, there were countless downgrades from the initial reveal. Certain features from the reveal were cut entirely out without any communication from Blizzard. And the worst part was this new version of the game replaced the original, so if you didn't like the remaster, you were out of luck, because it's now literally the only way to play WARCRAFT 3. It's been ripped apart by gamers throughout the months, and while Blizzard did try to fix the game's reputation at first, it seems now they just don't really care. This next one, I think, wins the award for being on the most Chaos videos. Aliens Colonial Marines. I've brought up this game so many times, and it never gets less depressing. It had such a ripe universe. It could have been the best. It was meant to be this sci-fi FPS horror game where you followed the group of soldiers cleaning up the mess at the end of the second movie. Early footage? Well, it showed off a lot. Creepy atmosphere, great AI, excellent visuals, awesome weaponry, everything we wanted. But I'm not even going to go into it. You know what happened. You know how we were disappointed. It was such a good idea, and now it's dead, and I'm super salty about it, and I'll continue to be salty about it as long as I make gaming videos. At number 5, No Man's Sky Vanilla. Let's be specific here. It's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, but the original version, it was a slap in the face to all of us. Released in late 2016, it promised to be this almost endless space exploration game with different factions, player encounters, tons of stuff to document, and so many planets that you'd never see them in your lifetime. So how much of that was actually done on launch day? How much was true? Not a lot. The developers got in hot water for just the blatant lying they did during the marketing campaign. And while they did eventually start patching it, all the initially promised features, they weren't there. It's great now that they eventually got around to giving us the game they promised us on launch day that we all spent our money on, but stuff like this is way too common in gaming. At number 4, Mighty Number 9. Most people like Mega Man, myself included. There's no question about it. But what happens when you try to make Mega Man without making Mega Man? None of the passion, creativity, or care. You get Mighty Number 9. This was a crowd-funded game released in 2016. It was led by one of the creators of the Mega Man franchises. That's promising. It was designed to be a callback to the retro 2D action platformers, but it just couldn't recapture that same magic. It also didn't help that this was a rather buggy game, and it was full of cheap enemies that didn't give you much chance to react to anything. I mean, it was bad. Overall, it was a good idea, but it was poorly executed. And speaking of poorly executed callback games, let's segue. YOOKA. Oh boy, another game trying to recapture the magic of an old platformer, this time Banjo-Kazooie. Released in early 2017, YOOKA was a 3D platformer it was almost identical to Banjo in terms of gameplay, design philosophy. Just like Mighty Number 9 though, it failed to capture the nuances, the subtle things. The gameplay didn't feel quite as smooth as Banjo, and the world wasn't nearly as interesting or humorous. It also didn't help that the gameplay was extremely shallow and repetitive, unlike the dynamic and ever-evolving gameplay of the titles it was claiming to emulate. Overall, Mighty Number 9 and YOOKA were two games trying to capture the magic of older games genres, but they couldn't understand why those games were so beloved. Okay, in theory, a modern entry in the Duke Nukem franchise was a good idea, right? Duke Nukem was one of the icons of gaming in the 90s, and it seemed like a good idea to give him a full-on reboot in the HD era via the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Well, if you know anything about Duke Nukem Forever, you know that didn't happen. Now, DNF was in development for 15 years, and it was originally supposed to come out on the N64. I mean, delays, rewrites, redesigns, you name it, staffing, everything. It all culminated to the worst FPS game ever made. I mean, that's it. Let's just cut to it. Looking back, I don't think Duke Nukem Forever is as bad as people remember it, but it's not good either. A modern era Duke Nukem game could have been totally cool, but instead we got this, and the Duke license died in the process. RIP. And at number 1 today, Spore. One of the biggest disappointments in gaming history. While it's not a terrible game, I could have done more. It was revealed as this extremely deep simulation game where you controlled a species from its very beginning all the way through its lifespan, and it used procedural generation to allow for infinite replay value. The game had an insane amount of content. People were stoked. Unfortunately, when the game launched, guess what? It was revealed that, like most other games of this nature, it was not all cracked up to what it was supposed to be. It not only launched with this horrible DRM policy, but it also experienced serious downgrades from the reveal to launch. Shocker, right? Rubbed gamers the wrong way, right? The gameplay was much more shallow than initially anticipated. It was far more repetitive than people were hoping. Spore was super ambitious as a project, and it had a lot of good ideas. But overall, it ended up just being a lot of wasted potential, and for that, it's getting the number 1 spot on today's list. Those are game concepts that just turned out horribly wrong. If you guys enjoyed, drop a like, make sure you're following the page, turn on those notifications, and I'll see you soon.